Thank you very much for your kind invitation. We should always start by offering our appreciation to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Namaha Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine, Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschasya Deshatarine. Now we recite these pranam mantras every day if we're full-time members of ISKCON, but who knows exactly what those words mean? So we should meditate like that. All the prayers that we recite on a daily basis, we should know and meditate upon the meaning. Krishna consciousness is not a matter, Prabhupada used to say, of parrot repetition. You can teach a parrot to chant Hare Krishna, but when the cat comes and grabs the throat, no more Hare Krishna. Ah! See? Ah! So we don't want to be like that. We want to chant the Hare Krishna mantra and all the other mantras that we learn from the heart, meditating on the meaning. So we offer respectful obeisance to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who's very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at His lotus feet. So this is significant. Our line of spiritual teachers passing on knowledge to their followers and disciples and going on like that goes all the way back to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Shorjas Babaji Maharaj, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, all the way back to Lord Chaitanya and all the way back to Lord Krishna. So this is called Guru Parampara. And there's a nice verse that says, Sampradaya Vihinam ye mantraste nishpalam spriya. If you don't get your mantra from a bona fide sampradaya, spiritual line, then it's useless. Nowadays, everybody wants to get credit for coming up with a new way of doing things, so that I become prominent. But we don't follow that. We want to learn from somebody who already knows. And then we give credit to that person because the knowledge that we've received from them is effective. We're not emotional, we're not sentimental. We give credit because whatever we received has been effective. And if we examine our lives, we'll see that whenever there's a serious problem, I want to approach somebody who knows how to solve that problem, not somebody who thinks they know or advertise themselves, somebody that we really can accept that they know. And how is that? They're generally certified. If I have a legal problem, I want to go to a certified lawyer, not some guy on the corner who claims to be a lawyer. If I have a medical problem, I want to go to Bhaktivedanta Hospital and approach a specialist in that particular field, oncology or whatever, because the problem is serious. Yet, when it comes to spiritual life, which is the most serious subject, people think that they can just go to anybody. In India, that's called yatamat tatapat. Anything you do will get you the same. No, it won't. Not anything you will do will get the same result. Not give you the same result. So we're taking shelter of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, because he's very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter of it. But not directly. Not directly. Prabhupada said we should never try to approach Krishna directly. You have to approach Krishna through the parampara. So we're taking shelter of Srila Prabhupada, who is sheltered by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, all the way back to Lord Krishna. We don't presumptuously try to jump over. Prabhupada used to say, the impersonalists, they use Guru like a ladder. I want to get self-realized, so I climb up the Guru ladder, and then when I'm self-realized, I kick the ladder away. I don't need it anymore. But that's not our sampradaya. Brahma Madhya Gaudiya Sampradaya means we are eternally in the mood of service. Eternally in the mood of service to the spiritual master. And therefore, Prabhupada says, there is an ISKCON in the spiritual world. And we will all be there, except for one personality, he said. Who knows? If you have read Leelamrita. Mr. Nair. Prabhupada is a pure devotee of the Lord. Pure devotee means soft-hearted. Just like Arjuna on the battlefield. It's not that he was a coward. He was a very, very famous Kshatriya. But soft-hearted. He didn't want to fight against Bhishma Dev and his guru Dronacharya and his other relatives. Compassionate. So Prabhupada is like that, compassionate. The mood, we're talking tonight about how to pick up this mood of Srila Prabhupada. So the mood of Prabhupada is one of compassion. Prabhupada is compassionate even to spirit souls in insignificant bodies. Like one time Srila Prabhupada is in his quarters in Los Angeles, and Prabhupada always kept a bell that he would ring when he needed one of his servants to come. So he rang the bell. The servant came, and Prabhupada said, "Do you see that bug?" And the servant looked and finally saw the little bug. Prabhupada said, "He hasn't moved in an hour." And Prabhupada is very conscious. Prabhupada said, "Put him on the ledge outside the window." So if we understand, if we accept, if we at least somewhat realize that we are spiritual beings, eternal parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, then immediately our consciousness expands to include all other living beings, no matter what bodies they're in. We learn from the scriptures that the spirit soul in the mature world can inhabit, who knows how many? The number is a very fixed number. What are the different types of bodies that the soul can inhabit in the material world? 8,400,000. Yes. Sometimes in the so-called field of science, they're studying how many fish are there, and they're guesstimating. Prabhupada said we don't do that. We have exact numbers. Why? Because we take it from the Shastra. So the Shastra says, Jalaja Nabalakshani. Those living entities who take birth in Jal, in water, 900,000. Exact, not 901 or 899, exactly 900,000. Now you accept or not accept, that's up to you. But the Vedic presentation is very exact. Jalaja Navalakshani. Stavara Lakshavingshati. Those living entities who take birth in fixed forms like trees and creepers, plants, 2 million. Lakshavingshati. Krimaya Rudra Sankhyakyam. Insects and amphibians, 1.1 million. Pakshinam, Dashalakshanam. The birds, 1 million times. Tringsha Lakshani Pashiva. The Pashus, like cats, dogs, lions, tigers, like that, 3 million. And then finally, Chatur Lakshani Manusha. 400,000 human-like forms. Not all existing in one place at one time. Human-like forms include like demigods. They look like human beings, but they're not ordinary human beings. And again, we take knowledge from the Shastra, which clearly tells us that those human-like demigods, they have powers that we don't have. They can travel interplanetary, interspace travel with no machines, just by their will. They're born with that ability. Nowadays in the scientific community, there's one prominent individual who's saying space travel is not possible. And he's giving all kinds of scientific reasons. But we don't follow such persons. According to the Shastras, the demigods used to come to this earth planet regularly. But in Kali Yuga, they don't. Because in Kali Yuga, the Earth planet is like a bad neighborhood, right? I don't know about here in Mumbai which neighborhoods are bad or not. I could go anywhere, I don't know. But in every major city in the world, there are some bad neighborhoods that you shouldn't visit. So in Kali Yuga, the Earth planet is like that. We know Kali Yuga began when Krishna left this planet. Krishna Sadhamo Pagate, Dharma Jnana Saha. Kalo Nastya Sangisha Purana Kudanodita. When Lord Krishna leaves after wrapping up his pastimes, that's when Kali Yuga begins. So while Krishna was here a little more than 5,000 years ago, we know Lord Brahma came to see him, Indra came to apologize for attacking the residence. So the demigods would come. But now they don't come anymore. This is a low class, bad neighborhood. And we can see from our own experience. People are unnecessarily mean. People are unnecessarily vicious. This is the effects of the mode of ignorance. There are three modes of material nature. So the 400,000 human life forms are classified based on the combination of the three modes of nature. If you are in the mode of goodness, urdhvam gacchati satusta, you go up. You appear in the demigod region. Not exactly take birth. We learn from Mahabharata that in the demigod society, there's husband and wife. They decide they want to have a child, and the child is born and immediately looks no different from the parents. You can't tell who's mother or daughter or father or son. Immediately grows up. No teething problem, no colic, no. None of the negativities we go through here on earth when we become parents. That's demigod society. On the other end, because demigod society, you're living on a very, very high level. You know, you take the wealthiest people on this planet and all their amenities is nothing compared to demigod society. And they live for millions of years. And then when their pious credits run out, Chinne Punya Marchale just disappear. There's no death like we have here. Somebody goes into a decline and you put them in the hospital, nothing like that. They just, one day, your neighbor disappears and you wonder what happened. So, we're not aspiring for that. There's a very nice verse written by Prabodhananda Saraswati, which explains the mentality of a devotee. Not just a devotee, the devotee has received the merciful sidelong glance of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya, we know, is the most merciful incarnation. So, how do we know that we received His mercy? What are the indicators? So, this Prabodhananda Saraswati very clearly indicates. He says, Kaivalyam narakayate, Sudashapu akasha pushpayate. Dordang tendere akala sarpapatale, prodkatadang saite. Vishvam purna sakayate, vidhi mahendra disakitayate. Yakkaruna kataksha, vaivavavutam tam goram evastuma. So that last line says, for one who has received the merciful sidelong glance of Lord Chaitanya, which is coming down in the cyclic succession. This is what we're getting from Srila Prabhupada, and representatives of Srila Prabhupada are supposed to pass on the same thing. So the indicators are Kaivalyam Narakayate. For a devotee, the idea of merging into the existence of God, which some people still aspire for. They think that perfection is to give up my individuality and just merge into the light, merge into the eternal amorphous spiritual existence. For a devotee, that concept is hell. In other words, we'd rather go to hell than merge into the existence of the Supreme. Kaivalyam narakayate. And then the next one, Tridashapur Akasha Pushpayate. The demigods we were just talking about, with their wonderful long life and all amenities. For the devotees, that's like Akasha Pushpa, means sky flowers. It has two significances. If you throw some flowers up in the air like we have Pushpanjali sometimes. How long does it stay? Not very long. You throw them up and they come down again. So for a devotee, going to the heavenly planets is like that. You're there for some time, millions of years, but for a devotee, that's nothing. It's like throwing up. And the other meaning is that it's phantasmagoria. In other words, it's not real. Yes, just like this table is real for now, but at one point in the past it didn't exist, and at some point in the future it won't exist. So can you say it actually exists? It's temporary. Some people say, "Oh, it's just not real." It's no, it's real, but only for some time. The example I like to use is that, I lived in Los Angeles for more than 30 years. I just moved back to New York, where I joined in '73. So in LA, they still have a lot of big movie productions. So let's say you walk out of your house one day, and the empty lot next to yours, they build this fantastic looking mansion, right? When you go to work, it's an empty lot. But while you're gone, they build this fantastic mansion and they're shooting this scene. And then by the time you come home, the mansion is gone. So was it real or was it not real? It was real, but it was temporary. Part of some phantasmagoria movie. So our vision of going to the heavenly planets is like that. It's real, but it's phantasmagoria. Then Dordang Tenduriya Kala Sarpapatali. The senses, the working senses, the knowledge acquiring senses, they're like snakes. Why? Because they're always attracted to things that are not good for us. Right? Your eyes are dragging you to look at something that you shouldn't see. Especially nowadays, everybody has this device. Right? You're chanting Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Don't do that. Don't do that. When we chant, we should try to chant and hear. One time, one of Prabhupada's disciples said to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, I chant, I'm thinking. Prabhupada said, there's no thinking. Just chant Hare Krishna and hear Hare Krishna. So why can't we do that? Because generally speaking, we are attacked by Japa terrorists. A Japa terrorist is someone who interrupts your Japa unnecessarily. You're chanting, you're really trying to chant. And Mataji or Prabhuji, you remember when such a... Nothing important, but they want to interrupt you just to chit chat. Don't allow that. I'm serious. Don't allow that. If somebody interrupts your japa, ask, can this wait till after I finish my japa? Can this wait till after greeting? Just nicely, but try to get the point across. Don't interrupt me. So this is the biggest japa terrorist. Again, you're chanting and something pops up on the screen and you're Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. That's not japa. That's not japa. So don't do it. When I chant, and I'm just as susceptible as anybody else, I leave the phone over there. I don't go near the phone because my thinking is that if there's something really serious, they'll find a way to get across to me. I don't have to keep staring at the phone while I'm chanting. So please don't keep it in your pocket. Don't keep it on the table in front of you. Put it somewhere in another room or whatever till you get through those 16 rounds. Because those 16 rounds, those are our lifeline. Those are connecting links to the Supreme. Kalona Stevana Stevana Stevana. This is the only way to become self-realized, to make spiritual progress. So we have to take it seriously. So those senses, the eyes are dragging you away to look at the iPhone, the ears are trying to hear something, the tongue wants to eat something during the japa period. Don't do that either. Wait till you finish your japa if possible. Or even if you have such a situation, let's say you're working, and this formula came from Prabhupada. If you're working, you may not be able to chant 16 rounds in one shot. But at least, Prabhupada said, you eat 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner. So before breakfast, chant at least 4 rounds. Then if you have to go to work, whatever, before you take lunch, chant another 4 rounds. Most people get at least an hour. Yes, here, at least in America, everybody gets at least an hour for lunch. So you can spend 4 rounds takes half an hour. So you can spend half of your lunch hours chanting 4 rounds before you take your lunch. Now you have half your rounds done. And then you go home. Before you take supper, you can chant at least another 4 rounds. Now you have 12 rounds done. And between supper and going to sleep, you can finish the last 4 if you still have 4 left. So in this way, even a working person can chant 16 rounds. You just have to be serious. Prabhupada said there are only 2 qualities required to become perfect in Krishna consciousness. And they both start with S. You have to be serious, you have to be sincere. If you're serious and you're sincere, you'll be successful. The third S. So the senses, the knowledge acquiring senses, the eyes, the ears, the tongue, the sense of touch, and the working senses, the legs, the arms, they're always trying to disturb us. So much so that this is why the yogis go to Himalayas and hide in some cave, because they don't want to see anything distracting or hear distracting sounds. But Bhakti Yoga is so powerful, you can practice it right here in the city, this most disturbing city. I thought where I live in New York is kind of disturbing, but this is. And it's only getting worse. I first came to India in 1976. Compared to now, it was quiet. Non-stop. Hong, 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 hong. Even today we went to Bhaktivinoda Hospital, and at least in America, they have signs near each hospital. No horn, no honking. It's a quiet zone, hospital supposed to be. But right on the hospital compound, man, people... It's a very disturbing atmosphere, but Bhakti Yoga is so powerful that if we're serious and sincere, we can practice it even in this disturbing city. You don't have to run away to Himalayas. You can live right here in Mumbai and chant 16 nice rounds every day, follow the principles nicely. So for those who are not following Bhakti Yoga, the senses are like snakes, always ready to bite. But that line says, Dordang tendriya kala sarpa patalai. For the devotees, the senses become like snakes with no fangs. If there's a cobra and you know the fangs have been taken out, then no more fear. Or if it's a devotee cobra. You must have heard that story about Narad Muni. Narad Muni made a cobra into the devotee. And Narad Muni has a way of traveling around making devotees and coming back to see how the devotee is doing, how the disciple is doing. So he came back and he saw his cobra disciple was all bedraggled and beaten up and scratched. And what happened? He said, well, now the villagers know I'm a devotee. They know I won't bite, so they come and they beat me whenever they feel like. So Narad Muni said, I told you not to bite, but I didn't say that you can't scare them. So defend yourself. If they come, you just... and that goes for us as devotees also. Devotees are, again, by nature, soft-hearted. But that doesn't mean that you should not defend yourself. Scare them. So for devotees, the senses are like snakes with the fangs removed. And then, Vishvam Purna Sukhayate. This is not easy to understand. Vishvam Purna Sukhayate means to the devotee, the whole universe seems like a place full of happiness. What? You guys are always telling us about the threefold miseries, how life in the material world is miserable and temporary, and you're saying that devotees are seeing this place like a place full. Yes, because if you're actually engaged in Krishna service and you see Krishna everywhere, like Krishna says, for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, for him, I'm never lost and he's never lost to me. So if we're always, yoga means to connect. If we're always connected to Krishna by this bhakti yoga process, then we feel happy, even though we're living in a miserable place, a disturbing place. The devotee is not disturbed. And the prime example is Haridas Thakur. Because he was born in a Muslim family, the Muslims didn't like the fact that he was hanging out with the Hindus and chanting. So the Hindu magistrate said, the Muslim magistrate said, you have to stop. Stop this. You're making us look bad. Stop, give up this Hare Krishna business. But he wouldn't. He's Namacharya, Haridas Thakur. He's not going to stop chanting just because he's threatened. So he kept chanting. So then they condemned him. Said, okay, take him in the marketplaces and beat him to death. So they did that. The Gundas, they took him out, 22 market, they were beating and beating. And he was just chanting Hare Krishna the whole time. So they actually asked him, they said, we're trying to kill you and you're chanting still. we're going to be killed if we can't kill you. So I said, all right, I'm dying. And he pretended to be dead. They threw him in the river. He came out a little downstream and chanting again. So for one who's actually on the devotional platform, there's nothing but happiness here. I'm not concerned about war in this place. Of course, I am. I'm not on that platform, so I'm concerned. There's a big war going on in Ukraine. Now there's another big war going on, but at least that one. I used to go to Ukraine every year. Every year they have a big festival called Bhakti Sangama. In the beginning, it used to be in Crimea, and about 8,000 devotees would get together, big pandal chanting. I didn't go at that point, but after the Russians took Crimea, they started doing it in a different place, in the Transcarpathia region, near Lviv. So that's when I started going, okay, this festival is still going on. I missed it when it was, and it became reduced. Why was it reduced? From 8,000 went down to about 3,000, 4,000. Because more than half of the devotees were from Russia. But because the Russians were doing bad things to the Ukrainians, and the Russians were not allowed to come into Ukraine anymore. You may not know that outside of India, there are more devotees in Russia than any other country, even though it's an authoritarian country. I've been there. I've been all over Russia. Even though it's an authoritarian country, because Prabhupada went there and he's noted again, as he did in many places, the people are good, the leaders are bad. He said they're simple, they're good people, and that's a fact. Given the opportunity, they could take Krishna consciousness very seriously. So there are a lot of devotees in worship. So anyway, so when I started going, 2015, so 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, then COVID came. And then after that, the big invasion came, 22. So Prabhupada has established this International Society for Krishna Consciousness. It really is international. When Prabhupada established it in New York in 1966, all he had was one little storefront. So people were surprised. You're calling it International Society. All you have is one little store. But Prabhupada, Trikalagya, he knew the future. It was predicted in his birth chart that he would travel overseas and he would open more than 100 temples. So he already knew. As he told one train operator, Prabhupada was sitting on a bench in New York next to this guy, and the guy asked him, who are you? What do you do? Because, Prabhupada would always dress like in devotional clothes. So Prabhupada explained. And he said, I have lots of temples and he had at that time nothing. Lots of temples and lots of followers, only time is separating us. So Prabhupada knew. So he called this movement the International Society. So I encourage all of you to travel around the world and see this international society. I've done that. I've been to every country in Scandinavia except for Finland. I've been to every country in Western Europe except for Portugal. I've been to most of the Eastern European countries. I've been here in India many times since before most of you were born. When you travel and you see the international nature of this society, it really blows your mind. You begin to really appreciate what Prabhupada did. It's not some small feat. Really, really did a favor for the world by giving the pure teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And that's what the second part of Prabhupada's Pranam Mantra means. Our obeisances are unto you, O servant of Saraswati. When you say that mantra, it's Saraswati Devi. Saraswati means servant of Saraswati. It's not Saraswati Devi. It's Saraswati. Why? Because you're giving the pure teachings of Lord Chaitanya and delivering the Western countries which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. Now, the mantra says the Western countries, but impersonal and voidism are also right here. We shouldn't think. So you should travel. This year is the 60th anniversary of the founding of ISKCON. And we're having a big gala festival in New York where Prabhupada started. So if you can, please come. And don't tell me that you can't afford it. Prabhupada used to say when the devotees would say, well, Prabhupada, they can't afford it. He said, you find money to eat and sleep. So, because Prabhupada wanted all the devotees from around the world to come to the Mayapur festival. He told the temple presidents at the time, I want all my devotees to come. And they were, Prabhupada, we can't afford it. Prabhupada said, you find money for eating and sleeping. You can find money to send the devotees. They didn't. What they did was, they gave us books and said, you sell these books and just return the cost price to the temple, and anything above that you can keep for your fare to go to India. So in 1976, there were so many devotees coming to India from America that we chartered one 747 from Air India, 440 devotees. Memorable, epic flight. Large percentage were brahmacharis. Enthusiasm. Brahmacharis should be enthusiastic. Any brahmachari is like this, something is wrong. Jeev Jago, wake up. Householders have excuse, especially when they have children. But brahmachari should always be like, yeah, more seva, more chanting, more hearing. That's brahmachari life. So we were very enthusiastic. And on the plane, we had Mongol Arti. And what happens when you have Mongol Arti and you start chanting, you start jumping up and down. So the pilot said, sit down. This is the plane. You can't do this. So Vishwam Purna Sakayate. Even though we know there's so much trouble in the world, the devotees are happy. Otherwise, how can we go out? What are we going to give people? Moroseness? Unhappiness? No, we go out to give them happiness. This is the method, the authorized method for being happy. Chant Hare Krishna, take Krishna Prasadam, dance, hear some philosophy, do some seva. So Vishwam Purna Sukayate Vidhi Mahenjadis Sakitayate. This also requires explanation. It says that to a devotee who has gotten this merciful sidelong glance of Lord Chaitanya, the position, not the personalities. We're not calling Lord Brahma an insect or calling Indra an insect, but the position. These are positions that you can fulfill, or you probably have fulfilled in the past. Because it says that when we first come from the spiritual world, we take the post of Brahma, and then from there, degrade. So the post of Brahma or the post of Indra for a devotee who is happily wallowing in the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, those posts are just like insects, just as important as an insect post. In other words, the devotee is not attracted to becoming again Lord Brahma or becoming Indra or becoming. Devotees are not attracted. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, I would rather take birth as an insect in the house of a devotee than to become Lord Brahma. Why? Because if you're in the house of a devotee, even as an insect, you're going to get some crumbs of prasadam, you're going to hear Hare Krishna. It's a nice position. Don't become an insect again, but to be anything, to be the dog of a devotee, to be an insect in the house of the devotee, it's much greater success than any of these big posts that people have. Because we see what happens. In spite of having big posts, like president of this country or that country, they're still not happy. In spite of having crores and crores of rupees in the bank, they're still not happy. Isn't it? And it's not theoretical, it's a fact. In 1995, I went to the Mayapur festival. And I'm sure most of you have heard of my godbrother Ambarish Das, Alfred Ford, who was given millions and millions of dollars to TOEP. So, Jayapataka Maharaj organized a boat ride on Ganges. I was there, he was there, Ambarish, and also Prabhupada's son, Vrindavan Day. So we rode up Ganga, then we came back down and went up Jalangi and got off and went to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's. compound. So on the way, we were chatting, and Ambarish said that you've heard the saying that money can't buy happiness, right? Everybody has heard that? Money can't buy happiness. So he said, the rich people know that it's true because they have money and they're not happy. The poor people hope that it's true. Why? Because they're envious. So life in the material world is like that. What people are striving for, position and money, it'll never make you happy. Never make you happy. Only this Krishna consciousness. At this time, this yuga. In other ranges, maybe you find some happiness by going to Himalayas and but you can't do that nowadays. You show me any part of the Himalayas where you can go where you don't see a jet going over. It's a disturbing age. Everybody is disturbed. So that verse we learned from the first canto. Payanapo yasa kalo asmin yuge jana manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya hiyopatrita. In this iron age of Kali, first thing is very short life. We know in the Satya Yuga, 100,000. Then it doesn't abruptly change. Gradually, when Satya Yuga changes into Treta Yuga, the duration of life goes down from 100,000 to 10,000. And then gradually, Treta Yuga to Dwapara Yuga goes down again gradually from 100,000 to 1,000. And then from the Dwapara Yuga, now in the Kali Yuga, 100. If somebody lives to be 100, oh, what a grand old person. In my family, my mother was from a family of 8. She's gone. She passed away at 87 quite a few years ago. But her elder brother, he's still alive. He's got to be 95, 96 now. I haven't seen him in decades, so I'm not sure how. But my sisters have seen him and say that he's still coherent. Doesn't always remember your name, but you can still have a conversation. So if you can live to be 100 years old, oh, well, that's nothing. Any child can count to 10, and 10 times 10 is 100. It's like nothing. 100 years is nothing, but we're so conditioned that we're thinking 100 years, oh. No, we're eternal. So even 100 million years is nothing. The whole lifetime of Brahma is nothing. Have you ever heard the story of Loma Sharishi? Loma Sharishi was a very advanced sage. And he got a benediction by pleasing, was it Shiva? Anyway, he pleased someone who gave him a benediction that you will live for as long as there are hairs on your body. And you will only lose one hair every time Lord Brahma dies. So just imagine the long life he was granted. And his followers, because he was living outside, sage, he was just living out in the forest. So his followers said, Guru Maharaj, why don't we build you a cottage so you're not out in the elements? He said, I'm not going to live so long, so I don't need a cottage. But we're not even going to live to 100 years, and we're working so hard so we can buy a flat for 2.5 crores or whatever. Yes, you have to live somewhere. And it's not that devotees have to be overly austere. No. If you're in that circle, just like Ambarish, it's not that he's given all his money to ISKCON and he's living on the street. Some people would like to see that. And then they would say, oh, such a nice person. No, he's using his money intelligently for building that project that Prabhupada endorsed and Prabhupada wanted, which common people don't understand. They think, why are you people in this country spending more than $100 million to build this temple? Why don't you give it to the poor or feed people? Or yeah, we're feeding people, but we feed people prasada. And that temple of Vedic planetarium, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur visioned from his home across the Jalangi, he saw that there was going to be a big Adbhuta Mandir and that people from all over the world would come there and chant Hare Krishna together. That's the importance. That's going to be the beacon for attracting attention from around the world. Because any contact that people have with Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada said once, even if they just appreciate, these Hare Krishna people, they're nice people. I don't necessarily want to be one of them, but they're nice. Just that appreciation, they get spiritual advancement. So the TOVP is meant for attracting people from around the world. People like to travel. They like to see wonders of the world, right? People will go all the way from India to Paris to see the Eiffel Tower. Just an iron, steel, whatever, not even steel, iron contraption. What's the attraction? I've been to Paris. Trust me, it's not worth it. But if you go to Eiffel Tower, there's a good chance you'll run into the Hare Krishna Hare Nam party on the street because they usually chant in that area. So that's okay. But we don't travel just to see this edifice or this so-called wonder of the world. We travel to associate with devotees. And it's this Sangha, this association with devotees, that will nurture our Krishna consciousness. So I'm very, very happy to be amongst such a nice group of devotees. Take the Sangha very seriously and take your Japa very seriously. Avoid Japa terrorists, including the phone. And that also implies that you should not be a Japa terrorist. Don't unnecessarily interrupt anybody's Japa. Okay? When it's time for chanting, chant. And then when it's time for chit-chat amongst ourselves, we do that also. We're not dead stone. We're persons, and we like to have nice interpersonal association. But it should be done intelligently. Everything has its time, place. So when it's time for chanting, japa, chant seriously. When it's time for kirtan, get into it. Let yourself go. Sometimes the devotees are too reserved. They come to kirtan and the lips are barely moving and they stand like a statue. No. When you go to kirtan, Hare Bol, Hare Krishna, and run around and dance and must dance. Prabhupada said, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement is so simple. Chant, dance. When you get hungry from chanting and dancing, eat prasadam, and then save a little time to have some philosophy. Listen to some philosophy. Such a simple movement. And if we actually practice it, and we start to taste the nectar of devotion to Krishna, then we don't have to be forced to go out and give it to others. You naturally want to do that. You're so happy. You just go out and give Krishna consciousness to others. You can't give what you don't have. If you're not feeling happiness in Krishna consciousness, then how are you going to make anybody else happy? By giving them Krishna consciousness. So we should always be eager, praying for the mercy. We come before the deities. We should be praying for the mercy. Prabhupada said once in Los Angeles in a class, he said, the deities in Los Angeles are Rukmini Dwarkadish. So he said, you see these deities? They're waiting to talk to you. The problem is you don't want to talk to them. You don't want to talk to them. Because still we have this impersonal attitude. They're made of stone or brass. No, they're not. That's a hellish mentality. Arcita Prabhu, Guru and Krishna, Vaishnava Jati Buddhi. Verse says, if you see the deity of the Lord as being made of stone or wood or metal, or if you see the Guru as an ordinary man, after all, he has relatives, he has mother, father, children sometimes. If you see other Vaishnavas in terms of their jati, in terms of their place of birth or their caste, or all of that means you have a hellish mentality. So we have to be careful. They're not stones standing there. So Prabhupada said in that class, he recommended that you go before the deity, folded hands, you say, sir, and we all laughed, because in the West you don't call God sir. You say, oh my Lord, or whatever, anyway. So Prabhupada said it at one time, one occasion. He says, "Sir, this is my problem." Now, Krishna already knows your problem. Krishna knows everything. He says that in the Bhagavad-gita. Vedaham samatitani vartamani tavarjuna. Bhavishyami chabhutani mam tu veda nakashana. He said, I know everything, past, present, and future. And I know everyone, but me nobody knows. So Krishna already knows our problem. But why then would the Guru, the Acharya, recommend that we go before the deities and say, Sir, this is my problem? Because you're establishing a personal relationship. You reveal your heart to Krishna, and Krishna will reciprocate. But if we just stand there and say nothing, or worse than that, we ask for some material benediction. Oh my Lord, I'm about to take my finals. Please make me pass. Or give me a wife, or give me a house, or give me. That's not how Vaishnavas interact with God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. This Maha Mantra means, oh my Lord, oh energy of the Lord, please engage me in your service. Not, please allow me to engage you in my service. So we have to be very careful. But we should want to establish this personal relationship with Radharasa Bihari. And they're waiting. They're waiting. So we go before the deities and pray. Go before the deities, reveal. Anybody has no problems at all? Anybody can say they have no problems? Then you must be on the topmost platform, Krishna Consciousness. So whatever is bothering you, like for instance, when I travel, a lot of young devotees ask me that, Prabhu, I'm not yet initiated, but I am attracted to this guru and that guru and that guru. How do I know who is my guru? So I say, go before the deities and ask them. They will direct you. Again, they're not standing there just, Krishna's waiting for you to approach him and reveal your. So if you're not confused about who is your potential spiritual master, you go and put it to the deities. Sir, I don't know who is my guru. I'm attracted to this Maharaj and that Maharaj, or this Mataji. Now we're getting female gurus in ISKCON. I know it's a hot topic, but I have no doubt. We can just look at the history. Prabhupada came with his disciples from the West, including one Yamuna Devi. And he allowed her to lead kirtans, to speak. Prabhupada did not suppress anyone. But at the same time, he exhorted us to not think of yourself in terms of your external body. One time in the early days, Jadharani went to Prabhupada. I said, Prabhupada, these boys, the young men in the movement at the time, they're always bothering me and teasing me. And she thought Prabhupada would say, okay, I'll chastise him. Prabhupada didn't say that. He said, if you continue to think of yourself as a girl, how are you going to make any progress? And another time, how many of you know Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj? He's now gone. So black body like me. And he went to Prabhupada once and he said, Prabhupada, some of your disciples are racist. And he thought Prabhupada would again chastise. Who? Prabhupada said no. He didn't. He said, if you can continue to consider yourself to be black, how are you going to make any progress? So the point is, all of us should stop thinking and identifying in terms of the externals. Male, female, young, old, fat, thin, smart, not so smart. No, these are all externals. We're all eternal servants of Krishna. So the more we can develop that mood, then we don't see any barrier to any kind of service. Because everybody should be in the mood of service to the Lord. Now, we don't want to cause trouble. Although I don't see here in a country like India, you've had a female prime minister. They still haven't had a female president in the US. I don't see where there should be any problem. But anyway, I don't want to open up contentious topic here. But just from my experience of knowing Srila Prabhupada and the examples that he set, I don't see any problem. So may Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada bless all of you in your endeavor to become Krishna conscious. You're very, very um, minority community. The devotee community on this planet is a minority community. They say there's 8 billion human beings on the planet, and we're not anywhere close to being one of the major religions in the world. If you want to call us a religious society, we're not. This Krishna consciousness is a scientific spiritual movement. But if you want to call it a religion, we're not anywhere close to being the top Islam and Christianity, and we're nowhere close. Meaning those who are strictly following in Lord Chaitanya's line. If you want to say Hinduism, that's a different thing. But Vaishnavism, as practiced by the Brahmana Gaudiya Sampradaya, very small community. Now, Prabhupada did say once that wherever you live, if 1% of that community can become Krishna conscious, then it will be like Vaikuntha. So, what is the population of Mumbai? Almost 3 crores. So, what's 1% of 3 crores? Come on, you guys have big math brains. Ladies, too. Huh? 3 lakhs. So, do we have 3 lakhs of people in Mumbai seriously chanting Hare Krishna and following principles? Give me a guesstimate. How many? 1 lakh, half a lakh? Come on, you membership people, you should know. How many people are already taking to Krishna consciousness in Mumbai area? 10,000. So just see the difference. That means you have a lot of work to do. From 10,000, you have to expand to 3 lakhs. And even if you did that, even if by 2036 you get 3 lakhs of people seriously chanting, if you were reported to Srila Prabhupada, you know what he would say? Very nice, now double it. So the devotee's work is never done. But we're not unhappy, because that's what we live for. We live for trying to please the predecessor acharyas. And if it means reducing sleeping, reducing eating, then we do that. gradually, not artificially. Like in eating, there are 2 mistakes Prabhupada said once in a class in LA. 2 mistakes you can make in eating. You can eat too much or you can eat not enough. So he said for a young person, you can make the mistake of eating too much because you'll work it off. You'll burn it off. You'll like that. For an old man like me, I'll be 74 in October. It's better to make the mistake of not eating enough. So there was one young boy in the audience. He was the son of one of the devotees. So he asked Prabhupada, he said, what about Tamal? Tamal Krishna Maharaj was there. He said, what about Tamal? So what was the import of that? Tamal was neither young nor old. He was in the middle. Most of us at the time could be considered young. I joined when I was 21 years old. At that time, Tamal Krishna was about 35. So that boy intelligently asked Prabhupada, well, what about Tamal? So if you're in the middle, you're not old, you're not young, then you should try to get it exactly right. Don't eat too little, don't eat too much. Eat exactly what your body needs. Because by the time you're in your 30s, you should know how much your body needs. And that's what you should take. But at the same time, as Krishna says, everything has to be regulated. If we become regulated, yukta hara baharasya, yukta tesasya karmasu, yukta swapna vabodasya, yoga bhavati dukkha. If we become regulated in these things, yukta ahara, ahara means eating. Yukta ahara viharas, viharas means recreation. Devotees have to have some recreation. When I joined in 73, the recommended recreation for brahmacharis was swimming. So as much as possible, we would pile into a van, go to some place to swim. Then later on, when I was in Los Angeles, because as was mentioned about the marathon, when I joined, it was ISKCON Press. So since I knew something about computers, I studied civil engineering. I learned how to program mainframe computers. The computers you know now came much later. Personal computers didn't come until the 80s. And this device now has more computing power than the mainframes that I used to work on. So anyway, so that was 73. Then in 75, they closed down ISKCON Press and opened BBT in Los Angeles. So all of us in New York who were working on ISKCON Press got shipped out to Los Angeles. So in Los Angeles, in addition to swimming, we started adding wrestling. So Brahmachari recreation became swimming and wrestling. But after some time, they stopped the wrestling because it was too competitive. Nobody likes to lose. So if you're wrestling and you're losing to the same guy over and over again, you become morose. So they decided no more wrestling, just swimming. So yukta hara viharasya, yukta chaitasa karmasu. Chaitasa karmasu means the consciousness in which you work. So Krishna is saying, regulate your eating, regulate your recreation, and regulate your work. Whatever it is, it's different from some of us are working intellectually, designer, this, that, working with intellect, philosophy, whatever. And others work more with the physical body. So some are working with the subtle body, mind, intelligence, ego. Some are working with the gross body. But whatever type of work you do should be regulated. Yukta swapna avabodhasya. Swapna means sleep, and avabodhasya means your waking state. So everything should be regulated. And what's the benefit of all of this regulation? Yoga bhavati dukkha. As we said in the beginning, this material world is full of misery, dukkha. But if you regulate as Krishna recommends, then you can overcome the miseries of this material world. So all of you, again, you're very intelligent. That's why you're taken to Krishna consciousness. We know it's not meant for the unintelligent. Only the intelligent persons, fortunate persons, will take to Lord Chaitanya's movement. It's there for everybody. But still, even 540 years later, we just passed Gaur Purnima. This is now Shakabda 540, 540 years after Lord Chaitanya's appearance. Still, even though he appeared right here in India, most Indians don't know anything about Lord Chaitanya. So we have that job to do. We have to glorify Lord Chaitanya, we have to glorify Srila Prabhupada, so that more and more people are attracted to this process. Because, as I've said in many classes recently, if you live a human life on this planet and you never once in your life say, Jai Prabhupada, then your life is practically wasted. Practically wasted. So we enthusiastically say Jai Prabhupada every day. We want to give that opportunity to more and more and more people to say Jai Prabhupada. Okay, any questions? Yes, but you have to speak slowly and clearly and loudly. After 52 years of ISKCON Kirtans, my hearing is not so. Well, let's start with one and then we'll get to the second.
First question is, you read in your introduction that you were the production manager when the Chantamrit was released. So we read in Leelamrit how it was Prabhupada gave this task to print in 2 months, and then I think Rameshwar Prabhu said it was impossible. So could you tell us something about what went on in those 2 months to make this possible?
Rameshwar is the best person to tell you that story because he was actually the BBT manager. I was not production manager. I was in charge of the typesetting. Again, because I knew computers. Actually, Jayadvaita Maharaj, he was still Brahmachari at the time. He's the one who got me involved. He came to me one day in the temple and said, we're getting ready to computerize Prabhupada's book production. We heard that you know something about computers. Would you like to be involved? So that's how I got involved. So Rameshwar was the in charge. The actual production manager's name was Radha Vallabha Das. He's still alive. Still in New York somewhere. He's not so closely associated with ISKCON anymore, but he was the actual production manager. So for me personally, being involved in that marathon, I was brahmachari at the time. It meant I would take rest around 10:30 at night, get up by 3 o'clock, shower, get dressed, and chant half of my rounds before Mongol Arti. Go to Mongol Arti and then chant the other half and then go to the BBG. And we could hear class because some intelligent devotee had set up a low what is FM station illegally. So if you knew where to tune in on the FM dial, you could hear everything from the temple. Because again, there was no internet back then. You couldn't go to, some website. And that went on for years. And then finally, some neighbor must have accidentally tuned in, and they complained to the authorities. So they made us stop. We had to shut down that FM broadcast. So anyway, from the office, while I was working, I could hear class Prabhupada. And Prabhupada came to the BBT periodically. Once in a while, we would get a break to actually go to class and hear from Prabhupada. I'm very fortunate, I have no complaints. I was very fortunate. Prabhupada made, for his centennial, Prabhupada was born in what year? Test, if you know. 1896. So the centennial is 1996. So for that centennial celebration, one of my god sisters, Mahamaya Devi Dasi, she researched to track down all of Prabhupada's disciples. And she documented 4,990 and 56, I think it was something like that, almost 5,000. That doesn't mean that was all there were. That's what she documented. She could track down all those people. Now, I was very fortunate because out of those 5,000 disciples, there were some who never even met Prabhupada, believe it or not. They joined the movement at some temple, and they became full-time devotees. The temple president sent a letter to Srila Prabhupada saying, I think that Bhakta so-and-so or Bhaktin so-and-so is ready for initiation. And Prabhupada would write back and say, yes, I accept such and such. My own initiation letter is there in the database if you want to search for it. Just search for my name, and you'll see the letter comes up. I accept Bhakta Orville, that was my legal name, and now his name is Arcita. That's like that. So a lot of this Prabhupada's disciples, they got initiated by letter, and they never met Prabhupada. So I was fortunate. I joined in New York in '73, and shortly after that, Prabhupada came to the New York temple. So that was my first direct interaction. And then by being part of the book production team, we saw Prabhupada. And so between New York and Los Angeles and here in India, '76, like I said, was our first trip here. And I went to the Mayapur Festival. I got my second initiation from Prabhupada in his quarters. So I was very fortunate. I had some. And those who participated in that 17 balls with 2 months marathon, there were about 35 of us. What it used to take a team of 35 to do, now just myself and Dravida we're doing. I do all the design production and I do the print buying, and Dravida Das is the editor, senior editor for BBT, internationally, but especially working on North America. So we got to go on a morning walk with Prabhupada, the production team. Now, as a university educated chap, I had a reputation of asking good questions during classes. So the devotees on that morning walk, they said to me, why don't you ask Prabhupada a question? I was thinking, what am I going to ask Prabhupada? Because I have remained a devotee because Prabhupada's presentation is so clear. When Prabhupada speaks, I learned more from hearing Prabhupada speak, recorded lectures or lectures that I heard in person, than from reading. That's just my nature. By hearing Prabhupada, it really goes in deep. When you read, you may, not often, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't read. You must read. And the beauty of having a book is that you can go back and read again and again and again. So I'm thinking what to ask Prabhupada. So, all right, so I asked Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, because I'm from a Christian background, Christian household. In Christianity, they have this concept of virgin birth, that Mary gave birth to Jesus without the touch of a man. I said, is there something like that in the Vedic culture? So Prabhupada said, for a woman to have a child, there has to be a father. Now, it may not have been an ordinary man. You may even say it's God himself. But there has to be a father. So I was satisfied. We kept walking. Come on, ask Prabhupada. Foolish me. I asked Prabhupada a really silly question. And it's there in the Veda base. You can look it up. So I said, Srila Prabhupada, in this material world, we know that I'm a soul in this body and I'm thinking this body is me. But at the same time, there's so many other living entities inside this body besides me. I'm thinking that this body is me, but inside the body, there are so many other living entities. And Prabhupada didn't hear clearly. He said, what did he say? And somebody repeated. And Prabhupada said, no, because I asked him, is it like that in the spiritual world? Foolish question. Said somebody repeated to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada just said, no. And after that, I didn't ask any more questions. So Prabhupada is very merciful. He gave very, very clear understanding of what is spiritual life and how to achieve perfection of life. And all we have to do is follow. All we have to do is follow. But one of our biggest enemies is the uncontrolled mind, who's always proposing something else. Yes, but. And what about this? And no, just tell the mind to be quiet. And that's why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, in the morning, you have to sweep your mind with the broom of the Hare Krishna mantra. Sweep. And in the evening, you beat it with the shoe of the Hare. In other words, you have to subdue the mind. You must subdue your mind. Don't give in to the mind. Mind is always proposing. And if you give in, classic example I use, you go to an ISKCON feast and they serve gulab jamins. And you eat one. You feel nice already. Mind said, oh, come on, take another one. You say, come on, they're so good. And you keep, then you get to 7 and you start to feel sick. And then the same man will say, you fool, why did you eat so much? So don't listen to the mind. Controlled mind is a good friend. Uncontrolled mind is the worst enemy. And what was the second question?
Maybe following in your footsteps of how you asked that second question. What was the question? So, what did Tamal Krishna Maharaj do to that devotee? What did Tamal Krishna Maharaj do to that devotee?
I don't think he had any negative feelings towards that boy. If you read the Lilamrita, Prabhupada and Tamal Krishna Maharaj had a very special relationship. He was a total staunch Prabhupada man. But, sometimes the ego got out of him. And so Prabhupada, one of the duties of the Acharya, the spiritual master, is to keep us grounded. So one time Prabhupada said that, because he noticed that Tamal Krishna Maharaj, was he already I know, I don't think he was a sannyasi yet. So he was the temple commander for the first temple in Los Angeles. The temple that's there now is, I think, the third temple that was in Los Angeles. So Prabhupada noticed ego was getting big. So he said, Mahavishnu lies down, and from his pores come so many universes. And in each universe, there are so many planets, unlimited planets. And on each planet, there are so many continents. And in each continent, there are so many countries. And in each country, there are so many states. And in each state, there are so many cities. And in each city, there are so many streets. And on one street, in one city, there's one person named Tamal who's thinking that he's in charge of everything. So Prabhupada knew how to bring the ego down. One little person on one little street in one insignificant universe thinking that he's in charge. Somebody else, one of the ladies maybe, some question? Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Question is that the reading culture is declining rapidly, right? Even on the smartphones, people are not reading lengthy literature or the books. Since you're the head of PPT for so many years, you may know the data that maybe books are selling, but are people really connecting to philosophy and understanding Krishna? Because I think that was the part with even Bhakti Saraswati Thakur said that books are important and we can speak, believe that and so it will work. How do we ensure that in today's day we distribute the books? We agree that they connect to the books, but actually people take up the philosophy, not just when we say ISKCON, but at least to understand Krishna through the philosophy and not just by rituals. Because in India, a lot of people do that anyway. But what we lack is the deeper understanding. Like you said, that prayers to understand and then faith, it becomes meditation. That's how we can understand and connect with Krishna. So, what do you suggest how we can do that? Connect people to God.
Good question. For my generation, all we had were books. I was born in 1952. My mother was a teacher. My father was a businessman. And I loved to read. I was reading fluent, with comprehension by age 4 or 5 for sure. And my father would always buy the latest version of Encyclopedia Britannica so that I could read because I love to read about countries around the world and what's going on and any topic you could think of. Now, as the information age came in, of course, at the BBT, we were concerned are people going to continue reading books? But a significant portion of people still like to read books. We're very happy by that. Like I said, I'm buying the printing for North America, and for a soft-cover Gita, I'm buying at a time 200,000, sometimes 250,000, and that's year after year after year after year. So the books are still going out, people are still reading, but we cover all bases. If you prefer to read on your smart device, we have e-versions. You can go on Amazon and buy e-version of Bhagavad-gita. You can buy a Kindle version, whatever you can buy if you like to read that way. But we can't be surprised. People in the material world, conditioned souls, are not automatically attracted to the Supreme Personality of God. That's why we remain here. We are here to try to imitate Him. So we can't be surprised. All we can do is do our best in terms of going out on the street and personally selling these books or selling e-versions, whatever we do. Generally speaking, people are attracted to these books because they are attractive. The covers are attractive. Prabhupada said, you don't have to try so hard to sell these books. These books sell themselves. You just have to be able to stop them, which is not easy sometimes, depending on the venue. I'm not a natural book distributor. My contribution has always been at the BBT. But I've gone out and, many occasions to distribute books. And I remember one occasion was maybe 88 or 89 in New York for the marathon. I was distributing at JFK, big airport there. And it was hard. People were like zooming, and it was hard. And I remember standing at the intersection of two very big passageways, and I was just praying, Lord Chaitanya, I'm here, I'm trying, please send. Literally, after praying, I had a Bhagavad-gita in my hand. Some guy went by, and he turned back and said, is that Bhagavad-gita? And he bought it. Turns out his story was, he was from France, actually. He said, I had a copy of this book many years ago, and I loaned it to a friend and never got it back. So now that I see it again, I want it. So he bought it. So we should always think that it's not by our prowess that any seva is done, not just book distribution, whether a pujari or a cook or whatever. We should never think that means we don't know Bhagavad Gita. 327, everybody should know. Prabhupada recited that verse over and over again. Prakate kriyamanani gunai kamani sav. Ahankara vibhudatma kartaham itimani. That the conditioned soul, bewildered by the three modes of material nature, thinks himself or herself to be the doer of activities that are actually carried out by the material nature. So as devotees, we should know that whatever seva we're doing is Krishna fulfilling the desire. So the spiritual master teaches us how to desire properly. Instead of desiring something that's going to take us away from Krishna consciousness, we desire to use our energy in Krishna's service. But we should always remember that it's not my prowess, because we've seen over the years so many what Prabhupada would call shooting stars. People who come in and then let's take book distribution. In America, I've seen so many times a young person comes in, and within no time they're distributing more books than established book distributors. But it only lasts for a year or two, and then you wonder, where is so and so? They're gone. So Prabhupada said, I don't want shooting stars. I just want one moon. What's the use of millions of stars? Give me one moon. One moon is enough to illuminate the whole sky. So we should never think ourselves to be the doers. So in terms of book production, book distribution, we just pray for the Lord's mercy. And we're very happy that some people still like to read physical books. Otherwise, we'd be out of business. But at the same time, we do provide electronic versions. And the main thing to turn people towards philosophy is the Hare Krishna mantra. One time on a morning walk, one devotee said to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, when we interact with people, as soon as they hear about the four principles, they're not interested. Prabhupada jammed his cane into the ground and he stopped and he said, why are you surprised? You're preaching to cats and dogs. Make them fortunate. Give them this Hare Krishna mantra. Give them prasadam. Gradually, they will become human. So we can't be surprised that we don't have tremendous success. You're very successful here. So many thousands of people. But as we said earlier, double it. You have to get to half a crore. You have to just keep going more and more and more. The Bodhi's work is never done. So in terms of getting people interested in philosophy, use every means. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he was very fond of holding festivals that included all kinds of things that didn't seem to be Krishna conscious. Just imagine, like, if you make a festival and you have Ferris wheel and you have all these things, it has nothing to do with it, but it attracts people. And when they come to the festival, then they can go deeper and deeper, and they get prasadam, and they get to see a book table, so we can use any means to attract them, to bring them in. It's not haggling. But ultimately, what we're trying to give everybody is this Hare Krishna mantra. Chaito Darpana Marjana. Because then the heart gradually gets cleansed and they become naturally attracted. Because Krishna that's what his name means. He's the all attractive Supreme Personality of Godhead. So as we become purer, then we become more attracted to him. Whatever we're attracted to anyway is just a fraction of Krishna's energy. Whatever we're attracted to in this material world. But as we become more and more pure of heart, then we become attracted to Krishna himself. And the prime example of this, well, the Pandavas are pure devotees, but the point is that Krishna is the most attractive to the devotee. And the Pandavas are used as an example because why did they fight that war? Practically the war was fought because Draupadi was dishonored. So it's not that they didn't like their wife. But when it came time to go back to Godhead, they left the palace without saying a word to Kunti or Draupadi. The women just happened to look out the window and see them leaving, so they followed. So they love their mother, they love their wife, but they love Krishna more. That's Krishna's natural position. He should be in the center of everybody's consciousness, central attraction for everybody. Okay? Anything else? Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you so much. We feel it's a great fortune to associate with you.
Hare Krishna.
A lot of us are householders and we have kids. And in fulfilling our responsibilities as fathers and mothers, what do you think is important? I mean, is it any importance that we should send our children to the modern education system? Or is it okay just to give them the devotional culture, and that should be fine. What do you feel about it?
If at all possible, ISKCON community should have complete education from kindergarten all the way to university. That's ideal. But if you're not in that situation, you may have to, at some point, send them to regular school. But the early years are the most important. As a child, my parents and their contemporaries, they were from the school of do as I say, not as I do. Like, for instance, my father smoked, but he would always tell me, don't smoke. It didn't work. When I was about 13, he quit smoking, but he left a couple of cartons of cigarettes around the house. So my friends and I, we took them and we. So it doesn't work. So if you want your kids to, you should ultimately want your kids to be Krishna conscious. Your children should be Krishna conscious. So you have to be Krishna conscious. You can't be the kind of person who tell the children, go to mandir, and then you don't go. Chant Hare Krishna, and you don't chant. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So the main thing is to set the best example you can as a parent by practicing what you preach. You have to practice, and then the children will naturally be attracted. If you're eager to go to the temple, then they'll pick up on that eagerness. If you're eager to participate, do some seva for Janmashtami, Radhastami, whatever, they'll also become enthusiastic. Now, it doesn't mean guarantee that they won't turn away. They may, because they're individuals, and everybody has their individual path to follow. But you should do your best. In the 5th canto, you'll find one verse, Rishabdev speaking to his sons, where it says that the king, the father, and the guru should give good instructions to the citizens, the children, and the disciples. However, if the children, the disciples, the citizens don't follow, don't get angry. Just keep giving good advice. So as a parent, that should be your mood. Just keep giving good advice. Because they're independent. They're independent souls. You can't force them. I'll give you an example. That one of my godbrothers, he was very fixed up devotee, but one of his sons joined the American military and he turned his back on Krishna consciousness. Now, he happened to be sent to the first Gulf War, America against Iraq. His mission as a soldier in that war in Iraq was nighttime reconnaissance, which means you get in a vehicle and you try to go out and see what the enemy is up to. So one night, dark moon night, he has already given up Krishna consciousness a long time ago. He's in a Humvee, military vehicle with another soldier, and they're going over the sand dunes, and they both fall asleep. They wake up because bombs are going on. All of a sudden, bombs are exploding everywhere. They don't know if it's friendly fire going out or enemy fire coming in. And he's telling the story after he came back. He was so afraid. What did he do? The first thing he said was, Krishna, save me. Now his mate, the soldier next to him, had no idea he had anything to do with Krishna consciousness. But he convinced himself that he was a devotee at heart. So when he came back to America, he started coming to Mandir again and chanting seriously, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare. That's Krishna. Krishna is Chaitanya Guru, and he has his way of bringing everybody back, and everybody differently. So many stories are there. That story is factual. There was one young man who joined temple in America, stayed for some time, but then he ran away and got involved with his old girlfriend. So one night they're going to a movie. Serious story. It's sad, but serious. True. He went to a movie with his ex-girlfriend, and some person was walking their big German Shepherd dog down the street. Somehow or other, the dog got loose and came towards this ex-devotee and bit his nose off. Jumped on him and bit his nose off. And in that condition, he realized, I have to go back to Krishna. So he came back. So there are two ways you can be tested in your Krishna consciousness. Two extremes. One extreme is everything is going good. Your health is good, your wealth is good, everything is good. How do you react to all that? Sometimes not so good. When things are all wonderful, who needs Krishna? And I'll give you an example of that. When I joined Krishna Consciousness, there was another brahmachari, very nice boy, fixed up, but his parents died and left a lot of money for him. As soon as he got his hand on the money, took off the neck beads, threw away the Japa beads, and ran off. Never saw him again. Until about 10, 12 years later, I happened to run into him, and he came up to me and said, "Do you remember me?" I was looking, "Oh, yeah. He said, "You are the one who actually made me a devotee." And what had happened was, and I didn't even remember, I had gone to some home program, and he had come as a guest, and I preached to him, and that's what made him come to the temple and join. So he was looking very downtrodden. I said, "So what's going on?" He, like I said, he ran away. He had all this money that his parents left for him. He married this non-devotee girl. They had 2 children. She divorced him and took all the money. So in that condition, he came crawling back to Krishna. So don't wait for that to happen. If you have everything going good, you have money in the bank, you have good health, stay Krishna conscious. Now the other extreme is when things are bad. Dog jumps on you and bites your nose off, or naturally, if you have some devotional sentiment, in that condition, you come to Krishna. When things are bad, hey Bhagavan, please help me. Like that. So that's easier actually. And that's why Krishna quite often keeps his devotees in that state, especially when we're neophyte. Because if things are too good, the tendency is to turn the back and run away. But when things are a challenge, then we take shelter of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Yeah. Okay. What time is it? I promised Suradas that I would at least poke my nose into this cultural program that they're running tonight. He had wanted me to come early and say a few words, but this was arranged prior, but I will at least go and pay my respects to him. Wonderful devotee Suradas. How many of you know Suradas? Yeah.
Some kirtan
Yeah.
before you go.
I am not a good kirtan leader. So one of you, or ladies or gents who are good at kirtan leading, should do that. I'll chant along with you, but I'm not a good.
You can lead the kirtan.
I'm not a good kirtan leader. Krishna did not bless me with a very good voice. You can hear. I have a permanent frog in the throat. So, but if you insist, we can chant for a few minutes. We have a good mridanga player. Otherwise, I can play mridanga. You're good? Okay. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadeshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Jaya Goranitai, 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 Jaya Goranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Go Premanandi, Hare Hare Krishna.